you charging 10%? What was your rationale for charging 10%?
Yeah, because I thought that what it did, it gave me a unique selling point to be cheap. And I thought that it would give me the opportunity of picking and choosing the vacancies that I could work on because I would be cheap. I now know the reality of that is completely the reverse. And, you know, by going out there and devaluing yourself and devaluing your product and your service actually puts people off rather than inciting them to do business with you.
Yeah, I think there's a massive lesson there to just quickly share is, first of all, a hiring manager can't say they want the best candidate and the cheapest candidate. There's a conflict there straight away. And I've touched on this before, but just very quickly, there are always three types of buyers, three types of hiring managers. So there's the price buyer, which is about 20% of the market, and they buy purely on price. So if Darren offers 10% and I offer 9.5%, I'm going to get the business. But if Claire offers 8%, Claire's going to get the business. And they will simply buy the cheapest, but they only make up 20% of the market. And all of your marketing, your communication should do all you can to repel the price buyer. You should be knocking them away all the time. Then you've got what's called the transitional buyer. So price is the fourth most important thing. They value the service that you give, your expertise and the relationship, but price is number 4 on the list. Now, these guys make up 60% of the market, and you should be targeting those guys. But here's a key thing. 20% of your hiring managers are what's called a premium buyers. So they will pay for a premium service if you offer it. One of the things that we find is that many recruiters, majority, don't offer any sort of premium service. But we can guarantee you, if you go and offer a premium service, a percentage of your market will buy the premium service. I can guarantee you, as you're listening to this now, you may be a premium buyer when it comes to certain things. You may have friends who are premium buyers, will only buy quality watches. Drew and I have a very close friend. He will only wear a quality watch. If that watch isn't over £300 or £400, he's not wearing it. He's like, not having it. We all know people like that, and there's a lesson there. So, and many recruiters, certainly at the beginning, they go, if I go in cheap, I can get my foot in the door. And all you're doing is you're going to attract the price buyer. That's all you're going to do. We have no evidence that cheap recruiters dominate the market. Thanks for that, Darren. Really appreciate that.
And I think also it comes with how you position yourself and how you speak with authority. You know, when you actually go out there and say, this is what I do and this is how I do it, then people don't come back and say, well, I'd like to negotiate with you on that, or, you know, and the conversations is just so very different. You know, speaking to the right people about offering really, really good service and giving people good value for money still, you know, that doesn't come into it. And the things we've learned, you know, with you and, you know, even as recently as the days we had in January, you just take people on a journey and it becomes a no-brainer. It doesn't become a price conversation because they need the candidate that's going to have a big impact on their business.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'll pass up to Drew in a minute. Just one question. I've got a question here from Damien. Hi, Damien. Damien's asking, has your delivery model changed after your fee stance increase?
I think that to a degree, yes. I'm sort of now working at a more senior level, although I had placed CEOs and I had placed, you know, decent level of people before. But I think that my positioning of myself as an executive recruiter working in this sector and at this level, I think has changed and evolved over time. Whereas before, you know, I was sort of positioning myself as a bit of a catch-all, and, you know, if you threw me a telesales guy that I thought I could make a couple of grand out of, then I would consider doing it. Whereas now it doesn't enter the conversation at all.
Yeah, and that's a really good point there, because here's the other thing about fees, by the way, and I will move on, is that the fee that you'll charge is merely a reflection of what you believe you're worth. See, there's some recruiters out there that don't believe they're worth more than 10 or 12%, and they will never ask for more because they don't believe they're worth it. So it's merely a reflection of your own self-worth, the fee that you're actually charging. Cheers, Dan, that's brilliant. Drew, over to you, buddy.
Just on that, and I was going to sort of say to you privately, Darren, but someone's asked a question. I think it's a valid point. Why do you charge less for retained compared to exclusive?
Because it's just my backup. Honestly, I don't actually pitch on that, or I don't go in there as a first option. And it's just what I've done. You know, I can't think there's a conscious decision or a reasoning for it. You know, it's something that I'll go in there as a backup, and I guess I'm okay with accepting 21% on a contingent, on a you know, on an exclusive basis. But there's no more thinking behind it than that, to be honest with you. It's really a secondary thing, and it's 20% of what I'm doing or proposing. It's really not in the forefront of my pitch or in my mind. Everything I'm focusing on is, and I'll only offer that and propose it if it's a vacancy I want to work on, or if it's a client I want to work with. You know, if for whatever reason that we don't go down the retained route, and it doesn't feel like it's going to be a vacancy that I want to work on, I'll walk away and move on to the next one. You know, and I think with the process and activity that I've got now, that if I'm not desperate to deal with every client or every opportunity that presents itself, and if it doesn't feel right or if it doesn't look right, then I'll simply move on to the next one.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, question from Adam here. Right. So you know, you're previously working on 10%, then you overnight moved to 21%. How did you transition the clients, you know, your existing clients, to say, you know, I'm now, rather than being a slow end contingency recruiter, I'm now a retained recruiter and I do 21%. How did you, or did you bother transition them? Did you just think, I'm going to go and, yeah, what did you do there?
I just thought, this is what I'm going to do. And, you know, you'd either come with me on the journey or not. Because, you know, I was dealing with rubbish clients at rubbish fees and wasn't doing, you know, it wasn't serving me and it wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So I was happy to burn those people and to simply move on. And you know, the one that I won straight away was an existing client who I'd placed a lot of business with. And, you know, we had a long conversation about the whys and the wherefores. And in the end, they were justifying why, actually, we can see why we need to, you know, work with you on an exclusive basis, and why only you send us the candidates that we want and don't send them anywhere else, you know. So it became you know, they were almost pitching me. So yeah, I decided that's what I'm going to do, and anyone else can just go and do what they need to do and find someone else to work with if they want to work on that basis.
Yeah, I think.
Awesome.
Sorry, Joey, go on.
So you made the decision, then you were willing to walk away from anyone that wasn't willing to work on those terms.
Yeah.
I mean, you just basically ask questions like, "This is what we're going to do. Do you want to? Do you want this service?"
Yeah, I don't think it was even a question. I think it was, this is how it is now. This is the process. This is what we do work with. And, you know, we obviously explained that, you know, we're going to use resources and researchers. We're going to work for you exclusively. We're not going to put candidates anywhere else. There was, you know, a justification for working with us on this basis. It wasn't just, you know, we're doubling our fees and you get exactly the same service and the same process. But yeah, it was a take it or leave it situation.
Awesome. Right. So, Darren, I don't know if you've got any questions around fees.
No, I think the other big learn here is that Darren, and would encourage you as well, you've got to be comfortable to walk away. And Darren said he chooses who he works with, not the other way around. And if you're going to choose who you're going to work with, you've got to be comfortable walking away and saying, actually, you don't qualify to work with us. So let's end the conversation here now. So I think that's the other big thing, is if you can go in with, there's a great book, by the way, it's called Negotiator book. It's called Start with the No. If you kind of go in saying, if this client isn't right, I want to walk away. If you come from that viewpoint, it's going to serve you well. Because what it does is it eliminates that desperation. You just go, no, this is, you know, you're not right for us. Thanks a lot. That's great, Darren. No more questions on that particular point, Drew.
Awesome. So Darren, so you made this, you know, change pretty much overnight. Got some quick wins. I think the first client that you spoke to sort of agreed and paid the retainer. So you knew the concept worked. You believed in it. You were no longer that person that offered contingency. You will now almost change your identity overnight, right?
Yeah.
But then you had like a period where you sort of like, you weren't where you were, but you sort of plateaued in your growth. Can you talk to us a bit about that? What you were going through? If we start there. Yeah,
I don't think I plateaued, Drew. I think I went backwards. I actually dipped. And I think it was because that I wasn't being consistent. I wasn't doing enough of the volume that I thought I would be doing. I think I still had the mindset that, you know, if I can just win one client and close a vacancy, that will give me what I want and what I need. And I know you sort of set this meeting up as about survival. You know, I was focusing on, if I can get one deal in and it pays me X thousand pounds to pay my bills for the month and pay for the boys' clubs and do what I need to do, great, I'm happy with that. But when you're working on that and then something doesn't happen or it doesn't go your way, then you go backwards again. So, you know, I think I was just trying to do enough, and not doing it and not succeeding with that. And so yeah, I was really going backwards, really.
Yeah. Okay. And so what again, recently, like I said at the start of the call, me and Terry both noticed a sort of shift in your communication, your activity. Like, it was almost like overnight. It probably wasn't overnight because, you know, over a long period, I guess, but it seemed as if you'd turned this corner.
Yeah, can I interject there, Drew? Just a bit. Yeah, Darren and I were having coaching sessions, and without revealing too much, they were pretty blunt and honest coaching sessions, weren't they, Darren?
They were raw. Yeah.
Raw. That's the word. That's the right word, actually. They were raw coaching sessions where Darren's saying, "I want to achieve this," but his behaviour didn't reflect what he said he wanted to achieve. And I was aware then that, bloody hell, Darren, you are going back. You know, you started off so well, but now you're quite honestly, you're prattling around, and I was, you know, it was frustrating at times. I couldn't understand what was going on, and we had quite a few conversations about, you know, what you said you were going to do and what you were going to do.
Yeah. And
there's one thing that we all know as you're listening to this call now: it is easy to say what you're going to do, and we're all guilty of that. And I'm including Drew and myself in this, where you say, this is what I'm going to do. But then stuff happens, be it social media, be it a book, be it a phone call, and you get distracted. And stuff that you should have done, you then don't do. So one example is the 10 before 10. So we encourage that you do that every single day, because we know the results that you get. And we encourage it as a bare minimum. But if one day you don't do it, you think, oh, I've only missed it for one day. Then you don't do it one day the next month, the next week, and the week after that. Ultimately, that's 20% of the activity that's going to give you some results. For whatever reason, you haven't done it. And I've said this many times, whatever's in your bank account right now is merely a reflection of your activity from 2 or 3 months ago. And often, and you've said this a couple of times, Darren, you talked about those 3 deals falling through before you reached out to us. And there was a change, and that's not long. Sorry, that's not uncommon, rather. So I'm just curious. I know the answers, but yeah, just share with us, what happened in your life where you go, bollocks to this. I'm going to stop, as you said, going for survival, because I'm worth more than this.
Yeah. Well, it was my 50th birthday back in the middle of October. And, you know, you kind of review things and, you know, everyone's saying congratulations and patting you on the back and all that kind of stuff. And I just looked at what I was doing and what I was achieving, and I thought, it's not where I want to be. It's not what I want to be doing. So you've either got to change it, stop it, or do something different. And from that point on, I decided, right, what I need to do, because I'd seen a little bit of success from the 10 before 10s, but I hadn't ever done it for a whole week, every day of the week. So I said, right, okay, my starting point, then I'm going to do 10 before 10 for the whole week, and I'm going to do 20 calls a day. Let's up the activity and do more of it. So that was a starting point, and I started that in the middle of October, and I had some success with that and could sort of see things coming through. So I ramped it up again in October and did 30 calls per day. And then I started to get some opportunities and some proposals and people to talk to. And then when I was sort of having my year review with Terry, I said, right, I can really see where this is going now. I'm actually going to start doing 50 calls a day. And the conversation with Terry was, well, I love your ambition and enthusiasm, Darren, but I think actually that's probably a bit high. And, you know, I think it's probably a bit unrealistic. And the exact thing I said to Terry was, well, Terry, I've listened to you and agreed with most things you've said to me over the last year and a half. But bollocks, this is what I'm going to do anyway. And that's what I've been doing. So I've been booking in, I actually outsourced the 10 before 10 process. So I get someone else to actually do the whole process up to booking the calls for me into the diary. And their target and objective is to put 50 calls into the diary per day. And I spend now 2 hours every morning. And the first thing I do, and the only thing I do in the morning, is doing my 10 before 10 calls. And I've now done them consistently, and I've done them every day without fail since the middle of October. So what's that, 2.5, 3 months?
Brilliant. So I just want to dig into some of the, I guess, lag indicators from this, right? So if you make 50 calls, how many hiring managers would you expect to speak to?
I'm getting through to about 10%. So I would imagine I get through to about 5 of them.
And then from those 5 hiring managers, how many would then turn into a triage call?
It's two to 3. It's actually working out about 2.5. That's the kind of the percentage you bet. 2 to 3 goes through to a triage call, or a call booked in for the future that they are going to be recruiting, and let's review it then. So starting to nurture a relationship and starting to nurture something with these people, that's kind of what goes through into the diary.
Awesome. So from, again, I know a lot of people are asking about sort of different parts of the funnel. I will work backwards with this, so I'll answer a lot of your questions about how you get the leads, all that sort of stuff. But so every morning, you're dedicating 2 hours of your day to call 50 people, 50 prospects. From those 50 prospects, you speak to 5 hiring managers, and then from those 5 hiring managers, you get 2 to 3 meetings of, someone who said, yes, I will have a need in the future.
Yeah.
Call me back then, either, within the next sort of 6 months, I guess.
Yeah, exactly that. 3 to 6 months. Yeah.
So every day, 2 or 3 opportunities per day.
On average, yeah. So it's not every day, but if you look at
Yeah.
it on average over a period of time, then that's the averages that I'm achieving at the moment. Yeah.
On average. Can I just check in with everyone listening? Has that so far made sense? And can you see the benefit that would have to your business if you were speaking to 2 to 3 interested hiring managers per day who had a genuine need for your service? Give me yes or, well, the answer is yes, but let me know that makes sense.
Yeah, so that's 40 decision makers a month, every month, who are going to be hiring. They've told you that.
Okay, so I just want to go back from that. So the 50 people a day that you're speaking to. Someone's asked, and I think it's a valid question, and it's what I want to sort of dig into. How are you getting those 50 leads or 50 prospects to call? Because just to be clear, they're not cold calls. These are calls with people who at least have some form of relationship with you.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, right?
The vast majority of them, 90-odd%, are coming through the initial LinkedIn 3-step process. We send out anything between 75 and 100 connection invites per day. We're currently connecting to about 50% of those people. And they then get follow-up messages, and then they go into an email process, and then they go into the 10 before 10 process.
Awesome. So every day, even just that alone, you're getting 50 prospects a day to call. Following the 3-step process, which again, the trainers and the members there haven't gone through it, where you basically send them messages to warm them up a bit.
Yeah.
And then, a week or so later, you're giving them a call, and they already know who you are, and they're willing to take your call. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And we're sending them an email message 3 times a week, and we're posting something out on LinkedIn and Facebook every day.
Perfect. I'm going to sort of dig into that. As well, sort of take it back a step. We look at your activity, 50 calls, or let's go to October. If October's the moment you start being consistent with it, doing 20 a day every day, how long did it take for you to sort of start seeing the results from that? From you got your first bit of business from the activity.
I think it probably took a few weeks to really get something meaty to work from. I started to get some okay conversations, and started to get conversations with people who were happy that call back. We're going to be looking for someone in April. So you then have the conversation about, well, when do you want the person to start? And you sort of book a call in time for that person to start. So I reckon it took three weeks or so to actually start to see some positive change from that activity.
So 3 weeks of consistent activity, doing, so again, 10 for 10 is the bare minimum. You doing, how long were you at 20 per day?
Probably for about 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
So 3 weeks for 20 per day, and then you already start to see some results, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're only doing 10 per day, that's going to take maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah.
If you're not doing 10 per day, you're falling short of 10 for 10, so it can take even longer, right? But
Yeah.
if you're saying 20 a day, took you 3 weeks, okay, perfect. So I know
Yeah.
people have those.
And
Right?
I think as well, Drew, the more that you do of it, the more confident you become, and the more you go into these calls, assuming you're going to get something out of it, and you go into it with a real positive kind of mindset that you think, well, actually, I'm going to get something out of this call, and this looks like the type of client and business that I want to work with, and you kind of go into it thinking you're going to get something out of it, rather than thinking, well, I better make these calls because Terry's told me to do it, and I can just tick the box and say I've done it. You actually do it with a purpose, and thinking you're going to get something out of it.
I'm going to ask on that, Darren. What difference does it make, the attitude that you go into making the calls? Do you think?
I think it makes all of the difference. I think that at first, I think that there's a real stigma, isn't there, about picking up the phone and talking to people. Even though this is a warmed up process, you're really frightened of being rejected, and someone's, saying to you, why on earth are you ringing me? Piss off, I never want to speak to you again. So I think that you don't want to get rejected. But when you actually go into it thinking, maybe 9 out of these 10 calls are going to be useless, but if I get one call that's going to give me something in the future to talk to, and something in the future to pitch on that may well turn into an invoice, I look forward to having that 10th call. So I think going into it, looking at the positive outcome rather than thinking, shit, I've got to do these calls again, makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So sticking with LinkedIn, that's one of the sort of main platforms you use. You've got the invites going out, 100 invites, 50% acceptance rate. Then you'll send them, following a 3-step process, then send them messages to warm them up, get them to raise their hand, and then they're going into 10 before 10. In terms of, on the content side, right? Because I know you're doing a lot with warming up your audience on LinkedIn. What are you doing on the, when it comes to LinkedIn content, what's going out there?
Yeah, so what we do is I outsource again to write 2 authority emails per week and 1 9-word email. And what we do with those is we translate them really to becoming LinkedIn posts. So they go out as emails, and they go out as LinkedIn posts as well. And we also send out 2 quote cards a week, which is some kind of reference to the emails. So it's 5 days a week. I do also on a Saturday sometimes send something out, but it's very much a more personal thing. It's when I'm at football with the boys or at karate or something like that. And the idea of that is to show people that I'm a dad and that I'm a normal guy, I'm a good guy, and to try and give people a bit of a warm and fuzzy feeling about me. And actually, most of the time, those sort of more personal things get a lot more views and some different reactions. If you try and write something very technical and very specific, it doesn't always get to as big numbers. But I think that ultimately, all you need is one person to like it and to connect with it and resonate with it, who then you want to do some business with. So you talk about the pillars of the Colosseum and having lots of different things, and I know there's a lot more things here to do, but this is the process and what we're working on now. We've just recently set up a Facebook group where we've got about 50 people in the group, and we put content into there as well, and we also put the same content onto the LinkedIn company page as well. So wherever anyone's particular interest is, they can kind of pick up something from a number of different places.
Let me just sort of sorry, you go there.
Just a quickie, Darren. It's a story that you shared with us about the personal stuff you put on LinkedIn. Can you just tell us the story the personal stuff you did over the Christmas holidays? I think it was. Yeah. Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
So once you got to that.
Yeah. So I put at Christmas time. I was. I think it was the Monday after Christmas. Can't remember exactly the days. And so I put a post out of my eldest son playing with his Lego, and the message was I was going to do some work today. But Ryan's asked me to help him build a yacht, and so work can wait. I'll do it later. And that was it. The idea was to show people that work wasn't so important on this day or whatever else. And 10,000 people have now viewed that, and I've had about 50 odd comments to it. And it really seems to have resonated with people that actually probably what I should be doing is playing with Lego rather than doing some work today, or you've done the right thing by not working and playing with Lego today. So yeah, that was sort of an example of a personal post we put out.
And sorry, how many views did you say that got, Darren?
It's just under 10,000 now.
Just for the 10,
Yeah.
10,000 views. Awesome.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So just on the content, just for people who, well, like most people, I guess, know they should be doing content, don't think they've got the time, don't know what to say. You've outsourced a lot of your content creation as well, right? So you've got there's two sort of long posts, what we call authority emails. They're getting done for you.
Yeah.
The 9-word again, is that getting done for you?
Yeah.
And then the quote cards are just taken from the authority. These are just
and that gets done as well. So what I'll do
from that, right?
Yeah, sometimes I'll add to that, and put something else out there, or putting a message out on a Friday morning about is everyone having bacon rolls today or whatever else. Just something that doesn't mean that much, but it just shows you're a human. Just to add to that. This is what happens. There's an absolute minimum, and this would happen whether I'm here or not, or if I'm working or not. This activity would happen automatically.
Okay. And then, so people have asked about outsourcing. I'm going to sort of come back to that, but I want to look at just the marketing side of things now. So you've got, like, if I'm your prospect, what platforms am I? So you're not, just to be clear, right? This is content you're creating. You're just repurposing it on all these different platforms, right? You're not.
Yep.
It's not one thing for LinkedIn, one thing for Facebook, one thing for email.
No,
like, these are just
exactly,
being reused,
exactly
right?
Same thing. Yeah.
So if I'm your prospect, then can we just sort of go through all the platforms that you run, right? So we've got LinkedIn, we've got email.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
YouTube.
A little bit on YouTube, not very much at all. Twitter, we share this. We just share a link of the same post on Twitter.
Anywhere else?
No, I don't think there is.
You did any direct mail, Darren?
I've done it before and had a good response from that. A couple of people who have come back on that, and that's something that I would definitely do again. But no, not something that I've been doing much, honestly. And then obviously the telephone calls and the 10 before 10 activity.
And any texting?
No.
Okay, so you've got all this one piece of content. Obviously, phone's slightly separate. It's not content that's 10 before 10, but you've created this content, and that's sort of giving you, I guess, fuel to send emails, to LinkedIn posts, Facebook posts, YouTube, Twitter, and then you're doing a bit of direct mail as well.
Yeah.
So you've got this omnipresence with your prospects. Again, I was checking those listening. Can you see how, if you're on all of these platforms, how that will be useful to your business rather than just using the phone or just using LinkedIn, or, you've got multiple platforms that you reach in these prospects. And again, I promise we will get to your questions you asked already. But let me know if you think that would be useful for you. Give me a yes or no in the chat box.
One thing with actually using all of this media, when you first start thinking about it, you think it's overwhelming, and you think you've got to do something particularly clever for each of the platforms, and you don't want someone to come back and say you've got a typo in this, or it's quite, and you spend a lot of time trying to be 100% precise. But you very quickly learn, or you very quickly realize that actually just getting something out there and getting views on there and getting things seen, and getting the sort of the message out there is more important than it being 100% accurate. And so now, while I don't want it to be wrong, or I don't want it to, be embarrassing or something, but the key criteria is to get it out every day, and, to not wait a few days because it's not quite right, and, miss a day. The key criteria is something happens every single day.
Awesome. And all of these are feeding in to 10 before 10, right? So you've got, obviously you've got LinkedIn that we looked at in a bit more detail, but then you've got anyone that opens an email, clicks a link in an email, like responds to an email, they go to 10 before 10. Anyone obviously LinkedIn, 10 before 10. Anyone that joins your Facebook group, comments on the post, does whatever on Facebook, goes into 10 before 10. Anyone that, watches a YouTube video, 10 before 10, same as Twitter, same as direct mail, right? So these are all feeders for your 10 before 10, meaning that, one, you've got the volume of people to call, so you can do 50 calls a day. But two, when you call them, it's not a cold call from a stranger. They know who you are.
Yeah.
Question from Edward. you've how long was it before you started to see responses from the content you were putting out?
I think again, it took a little while, and it took a little while for it to get out there, and for people to see it. I think that what you hope from doing this is you get an immediate response, an immediate reaction. You hope that you send out one piece of content and someone rings you and says, "I'd like to give you a £200,000 retainer on 25%, please," and that isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I think it's more about the drip feeding, the chipping away, so that actually when someone does see something, or they have seen something from you, then they're a bit more familiar with you, and they're a bit more open to the fact of having a conversation with you. Clearly, if they've commented or if they've liked something or whatever else, then it's easier to approach them. But I think it's about chipping away, and I think it's about making people aware that you're out there and this is what you do. You're a good guy, and they should be doing business with you.
And I know you could ask a few more questions. Just a couple of things, Darren, that you shared with me. You had somebody complain about one of your messages. Was it an email? And you called them?
Yeah. So I had one guy who we got his details off of LinkedIn, went through the three-step process, and then sent him into the emails. And he responded and said, "How on earth have you got my email address? How dare you contact me on my personal email address?" And this was right in the early days. And I was, upset and aggrieved that someone would come back and complain about something that I was doing. So I picked up the phone to him and said, "I'd just really like to explain to you what's happening and how this is. I've got your details from LinkedIn, so in the public domain, and I've contacted you because I'd like to help you when you need to recruit people who are going to have a big impact on your business." And that turned into a meeting, and turned into, I haven't done business with him yet, but I'm still nurturing the relationship and nurturing the contact, so we can actually do business. So yeah, by picking up the phone and speaking to the guy, it turned from someone telling me to go away to someone to have a conversation with.
Fantastic. And the other example you gave me is you put people in your 10 before 10 who view your profile?
Yeah. So people who come and view my LinkedIn profile who look interesting, because you get views from people who don't look interesting or don't fit the criteria. But I had someone who I placed actually a couple of years ago. He looked at my LinkedIn profile, so I dropped him a message to say, "Thanks for dropping by. Great to see you. Let's have a catch up." Started to engage and have some conversations, and that did turn into winning a retainer, which I'm working on currently.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Darren. Over to you, Drew.
Awesome. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, my screen says it wasn't working. So that's it. So you've got all this content coming out. You've got someone creating it for you. You've got someone doing the posting as well. So talk to me. People have asked about outsourcing. Talk to me about, I guess, what you outsource, what the average cost of outsourcing is a month, and how you find the people to outsource to.
Yeah. So I outsource everything from the 10 before 10 process and connecting with the LinkedIn connections, right the way through that process to booking in calls for a 10 before 10. And then I outsource all of the email writing and sending those emails. I've just recently taken on Salesforce, and Salesforce is really exciting for me because you can set up some automatic processes. So what I'm able to do now in my 10 before 10 calls, if I phone somebody and I don't get through to them, I can press a button on Salesforce, and that will automatically send them an email to say, "I'm sorry, I contacted you, but I didn't get hold of you. I'll recontact you again in the future." And it also then rebooks that call into the diary in 4 months' time. So we don't have to touch that again. That automatically then goes into that process, and that then saves a whole lot of time from the guys we outsource the 10 before 10 process, so they can then be working on new connections. And once we've got hold of someone and they're in our, if they become a target, then they're in the system that just processes and carries on.
Excellent. And how much are you spending a month on outsourcing?
I think it's probably for the LinkedIn stuff and the content, it's probably £800, £900 a month.
That's pounds. So that's about $1,100. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks for that. You still there, Drew?
Yeah. Sorry. Keep making my noises. So about Lemon does get everything outsourced. So basically, your role within the business, Darren, is just making the 10 before 10 calls, and attending the sales meetings. Is that right? And then and obviously filling the assignments.
Yeah, and I do some of the researching and finding candidates myself, but I'll also outsource that to researchers. So I've got one sort of higher level researcher that I work with, and then some lower level guys who I'll also get them to go and screen CVs and find candidates for me that I can then screen.
Awesome, fantastic,
brilliant. And do you just going back to the sort of your business as a whole? Are you international or just the UK? Just
UK currently, just working UK, and there's I think with the number of connections we've got, then we've got a search and a save search set up in LinkedIn Recruiter, and what that does is that identifies the people I want to connect with, and that updates every day. And in the last month, there have been 500 new targets that have gone into that list, and there's already about 9,000 in that list. So that's the list that we use then to just start the process. So there's more than enough work for me to do here, and in the UK. I would like to work internationally, but at the moment there's no need for it.
Brilliant.
Any other questions for Darren? Darren, this has been fantastic. I'm just going to make sure we've answered all the questions that have come in.
If we haven't answered your question, repost it so it comes to the bottom, because we've sort of a list of.
I can see the questions. I couldn't see them before.
Oh, okay.
People.
So hopefully we've answered your question, Claire. Oh, did you give the name of the companies that you outsource to, Darren?
I work with a company in India called Top Resourcing. I'll happily share that information later on, or it has somehow. I've worked with them now for a couple of years. I started off with them just doing CV searching for me, and now I've outsourced the whole process to them.
Awesome. So they don't. So just to be clear, so what do you outsource to them? Because I know you use.
Yeah. So they have access to my LinkedIn account, and they will send connection invites, the 3-step process, and they will then export those those connections and put them into a 10 before 10 process.
Perfect. And then on the content side.
Yeah, on the content side, then that's outsourced as well, and that works with the same list, because the Indian guys will get the email addresses from LinkedIn. I know there's people use Linked Helper and stuff like that, so that then gets exported and at the moment put into Woodpecker, but we'll probably go into Salesforce going forwards.
Awesome. And I think it was Claire. Do these guys get phone numbers?
Only really from LinkedIn profiles when they're on there.
Yeah.
They will get company phone numbers, but it gets harder and harder to get company phone numbers, honestly. But yes, they will. Yes, they will get phone numbers. Well, I've recently looked at Swordfish and Lusher, and the results are okay, but not great, honestly. So one thing that we do, when we're putting calls in, we'll try hard to focus on people who've got a mobile number, because that way you are speaking to directly to the right person. And you asked me yesterday, Terry, about what's the blockage. I think the blockage is those phone numbers and actually getting through to the right person first time. That if there was a magic piece of software that we could invent that got everyone's mobile phone numbers, then I think we'd be a lot more successful.
Yeah. Darren, I just want to talk to you about the scripts that you're using, because there's been a few questions about this in the group. So there's a few, I guess, different parts. There's a 10 before 10 triage call and a sales script. So 10 before 10, what is it that you say? Do you stick to the script that we've got in the members area originally, or have you tweaked it? What do you say to get?
Here it is. It's under my computer all the time. So it's the script. It's the updated script that you put onto the website, and just stick to that word by word, verbatim, really, and just work through that, and always try to bring people back to that conversation, even if they want to steer off. And if people try and steer off that, then I would say to them, look, we're really going off of a message here. Then the best thing to do would be to book a call for the future, and we can have a more detailed conversation. So I try not to go off message in the 10 before 10 calls. For me, the 10 before 10 calls is about getting a next step or a next action, and kind of getting hold of the right people, making sure they are the right people, and then moving them on. That's what the whole process is for in the mornings.
Awesome. And then the triage call, because what do you tweet that? What do you say there?
No, that's the same as well from the website. Okay. So that's here as well, and just follow that. I still have it in front of me and still read through it, even though I've made lots and lots of calls now, and just follow it line by line and just work through it bit by bit.
And from your point of view, Darren, the triage call, what's your objective in the triage call?
The objective for me is to understand that they are the decision maker, to understand that the vacancy is real, and confirm exactly what's going on there, and then to move on to agreeing terms and actually start working for them. So it's actually it's fine tuning and taking them down the funnel to making sure that they are a genuine someone that we want to work with.
So do you follow that with a sales call after the triage call, or do you close on the triage?
Some and some, honestly. I think it really depends on the situation and where the conversation is going. If it's becoming very evident that the triage call and that second call is enough, then there's no need to book another call. Let's send over terms and agree terms and get working.
Yeah, and just for the new guys, we recommend 3 calls. You can see Darren's sometimes doing 2, which is fine, by the way. All that matters is that you get the business. So the 10 before 10, there's no selling that. It's purely fact finding. You want to understand what their future recruitment needs are and get a date for when they're going to be recruiting in the future. So if they say they're recruiting right now, that's no good to you because everybody's working on it. The triage call, as Darren said, is to understand the decision-making process, exactly what they're looking for, what their pain points are. The triage call takes about 10, 15 minutes. And then you have the sales call, which can either be done face-to-face or on telephone or teleconference or whatever. So that's the process that we recommend. And it substantially then improves your close rate, because you've got all the information. You literally know what it is you need to do to get the business. Hence the point of that. And of course, it helps with the rapport building, because you're literally having 3 conversations, three conversations in total before you're going to start asking for the business, which is great. So fantastic.
I think as well, Terry, something that I've picked up on recently is about nurturing that relationship and actually, becoming a confidant and being someone that these guys trust and want to work with. I think in the old days, I would want to try and pick up the phone, understand what the vacancy is, what are the terms, what fee do you pay, and try and do a deal there and then. And, so now, having things in the diary, by sending people emails and texting them now and again, how are things going, how's business, and just keep on nurturing that relationship. It makes it much stronger and much more believable, I think.
Yeah, excellent.
And just to check, so the triage calls, are you doing it face to face or just over the phone?
Over the phone.
And what about the sales calls?
I do very few face to face meetings, honestly. I think really depending on the size of the opportunity and how the business looks and who I'm dealing with, I would on rare occasions go and make a visit, but the majority of what I do is on the telephone.
And that's interesting as well, because you do a lot of videos, so a lot of people you're talking to, they've seen your videos, they're receiving your emails, that relationship's formed, so there's less necessity to go and meet them face to face, because they've got that relationship with you already. And all you guys that are in on this call today, if you think about it, that's the relationship that we had with you. You've seen my posts, you've seen our videos. We all did a triage call. Everybody that's on this meeting, we did a triage call with you, first of all, to see if you qualified. So you've actually been through the process yourself. So you've seen that it works. And people like Darren, I'll give another example of how it can work for you.
Can I just check in? What have you found most useful about what Darren shared today? So let me know in the chat box, what have you found the most useful sort of light bulb moment, a reminder, I guess reinforcer? What's it been for you? Let me know in the chat box.
I'll share something, Drew. It's quite obvious that that people get more from the recruiters than they do from you and I. So we need to look at that. So it's growth and process and growth. Yeah, excellent.
Process and growth. Yeah, consistent. Yeah, look, we say it a lot, and again, like I said, I think it maybe sinks them more when someone else says it. Consistency in terms of all the processes that we teach, like 100% work. We've tried them enough times, tested them enough times. They all work, right? The key though, to get maximum impact, is one, sticking to the process, but consistency. What all that's happened with Darren is he decided to be consistent with the activity and then increase the volume. And you know, like every week, I feel like you're emailing them or having a conversation, saying, "Oh, let's do more of this, let's do more of that," to the point now where every day your audience are getting something from you. You're doing 50 calls. So it's all about just being consistent and the volume. Damien, self-belief in your MO and process and the confidence to walk away. Awesome.
Yeah.
Lyndon, consistency is key. Be resilient. Don't lower your standards. For Edward, it's been outsourcing much of the work, consistency in the process. Good stuff. Awesome. Darren, thank you ever so much for doing this. It's been brilliant.
Yeah. Again, I want to endorse that, Darren. Thank you so much. Really grateful. And you're not a bad presenter, by the way, Darren.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
That seriously did a fantastic job. Absolutely fantastic. I've got to ask Darren, who's that good-looking lad behind you?
Yeah, that's Ryan. So that was when he was 2 or 3 years old, I think. We had a photo shoot done, and just a nice picture in the office of him with a briefcase. So clearly I put it there because I actually work in a village hall. My office is in the village hall, and behind me is just red curtains, and it looks like I'm in a photo booth. So I just tried to break it up a little bit by putting a picture there. That was all I did. Excellent.
Now, how old's Ryan now?
He's 9 now. Yeah.
Wow.
9 now.
Yeah. And the other thing I was asking very quickly, on the other side, is that your scorecard on?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and that was fairly deliberate as well, to be honest with you. So what I did is that one of the other members, Nick, sent round a spreadsheet of what he should be doing on a daily and weekly basis. And I used to be really good at hiding that in the paperwork on my desk or forgetting to do it or whatever else. So by having it on a flip chart that I actually almost trip over when I come to my desk every day, I can't avoid it. So it's a really visual reminder of what I need to do. And hopefully you can't see it very clearly from there, but it's really obvious, and for the last 5 days there's no ticks on videos, so it stands out that you need to do some videos, Darren. You're doing lots of other stuff, and you don't do everything every day, but it's a good prompt and a good reminder to do some to have some good practices and do the things but it's now the 10 before 10, the follow-up calls, getting content every day. I probably could tick that for the coming weeks because that happens without thinking about it now.
Brilliant. Yeah, so that's a great lesson there.
Awesome. Well, unless there's any more questions, I think we'll wrap it up. So next week we've got training on the micro webinar. So those of you who came to the live intensive, we've done a bit there. The training next week is going to go into a lot more detail. Got it in a lot more detail. If you didn't come to intensive, then come to that. It's going to give you a method for getting prospects to raise their hand, but also come into your triage calls almost pre-sold on your service offering, knowing who you are, already wanting to buy your service. So make sure you join that. On the February the 20th, we've got a skill session. I'm going to be looking at mindset, and then on the 27th, we've got a session around what we call trigger habits. So yeah, make sure you sign up, register for those. Any questions, post them in the group. That's the quickest way to get hold of us. If it's a more sort of personal problem you want to speak to us about, book a one-on-one call. We're happy to help. But until then, take care, take action,
and be relentless. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Darren, thanks a lot, buddy. Oh, you're here.
Speak to you later.
Cheers, mate.